Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Tuesday. It is April the 14th. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about humility. It seems to be something that is in somewhat short supply, at least in our political environment. And there's an axiom that you kind of have two choices in life. You can be humble, or you can be humbled. This was such an important concept. The Greeks actually had their own name for it. The thing that happened for people who were in public life that became, I don't know, we say it buying your own press or believing your own press, buying your own hype. Hubris is the word. Hubris is the fatal pride of someone who buys their own hype. And right now, we're watching our administration that is in power with all of the benefits that you could want. They have the House, the Senate. They may not be massive majorities, but they have them. And they're doing these unforced errors. And I wonder if it's just because there's too many people that are in the circle that are refusing to give anybody some bad news. Got an interesting insight coming from 2018 in the middle of the first Trump administration, where Lindsey Graham actually nails it, hits it right on the head, and calls out the current situation that we're in here in 2026. So that's going to be kind of interesting. We've got members of Congress resigning over sexual misconduct allegations. Shocker. That does seem to be a hot button in the last, let's call it, 9 months, 12 months. But I actually think that's something that's bigger. It says something more about where Americans are. We're just fed up. We don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you're a scumbag and we can see you being a scumbag, there's only so much hype that you can get. It's not going to work. Not today. So Tony Gonzalez announcing he's resigning/retiring from Congress, which is probably a good thing. We're also seeing Eric Swalwell, who should be dominating the news cycle right now. He was the leading candidate in the race for the California governorship. And instead, my news feed is wall-to-wall Donald Trump pretends to be Jesus and then tries to lie to you. So I get this impression that our current administration, because they're not getting honest information on the inside, I mean, there is a bubble, clearly, and there's certain things that do not penetrate the bubble. What it looks like from here is if you don't tell people honesty, if you don't give them like an honest assessment, like, hey, sir, by the way, this was a really bad take, a little bit of humility would go a hugely long way. This is the case basically since I've seen Donald Trump. It's always been my disagreement with him. A complete lack of humility, an inability to look inward and go, hey, maybe I didn't do the best work on this one. That'd be so powerful to Americans who love an underdog, who love somebody that has a redemption story. But instead, we've got the never apologize, never admit you're wrong. Everything I did was great. If anybody's got a problem, it must be them. It's hubris. And it was fatal in every myth and pretty much every story. I mean, even the concept of the tragic hero, the idea of a heroic journey, it comes with this tragic flaw. The flaw is this one thing, the Achilles heel, that the thing that can take down somebody who appears otherwise invincible and incapable and impervious to harm. So anyway, this is a long observed trait of people in public life. And we're seeing it. And it can happen at the big scale. It can happen at the slightly smaller scale, still national. And then, of course, it could happen in our own lives. We're going to talk today real quickly about my friends over at Silent, and we're going to get into today's news and this sort of ongoing fear that I see. And I don't know if it's like a death rattle of the mainstream media, but it is. There's something that's happening that I can kind of see from the outside. There's this worry about podcasters, right? We saw earlier on Donald Trump took an attack at the Low IQ podcast. They've been kicked off television. But anybody who's paying attention knows that the biggest audiences are not on television anymore. And certainly the most powerful, moving, stay with you penetrating messages are not coming from terrestrial television. They're actually coming from a totally different medium, the one that you can take with you. I'll kind of discuss what I think is going on there as well, because I do see some fear from the mainstream media trying to attack the quote unquote new media. All right, before we get into all that, as you guys consume media, as you guys are doing it, it's probably on your phone. Your phone is a tracking device. It is used by government agencies and big tech and nation state actors and corporate data brokers and cyber criminals and other types of folks that you probably don't want having access to you and what you're doing, because they don't have to ask when they take the things from you. They take your digital footprint. They take your location data. They take what you're up to. If you guys want to break from all that, if you want to stop the surveillance state for a few minutes, you can do so with one of the quality products from my friends over at Cylent, slnt.com/KYLE. That's the website. Cylent.com/Kyle. There's no vowels in Cylent. They make Faraday gear. They block all the wireless signals, whether it be Wi-Fi or cellular or Bluetooth, GPS, RFID, near-field communications, all the things that are coming out of your phone. All of those can be used to track you. They all leave breadcrumbs on different digital mechanisms and networks that you're walking through, whether you go to the grocery store and there's a Wi-Fi network that you're pinging against, even if you don't connect to it, whether you go to the mall or whether you drive by, some other random Wi-Fi network in your neighborhood. All of those things can track you. If you want to use the same technology that's trusted by special operations worldwide, by counterintelligence agents, by intelligence operatives, and so on, to be able to block signals, avoid surveillance, secure your comms, and just get a little bit of peace in your life, which is a really big thing, something that just doesn't buzz your smartwatch. It's available to you. Protect your family, your freedom, your sanity, I would say, is also a really good one. Drop your phone in a silent Faraday sleeve. Drop off the grid. You go completely silent. You'll save 15% with my name. You'll also get free shipping. I am kind of picky about the kind of companies that I'm going to buy equipment or gear from. I don't like gimmicks. I do like things that work. I've personally tested these things. I've driven all over this country and used them to be able to block signal, and they just don't get it through, which is not the case for some of the cheaper Chinesium type junk you might buy on an Amazon or a Temu or whatever the hell else website you guys are looking at. They cost a little more. I think they're worth the money. That's been my experience, and their product design is outstanding. Check out the E3 Everyday Faraday Backpack. Check out my friends over at Cylent at cylent.com/KYLE. Get free shipping, 15% off on qualified orders, blah, blah, blah. Outstanding stuff. Do check them out. Let's get into today's program. Let's start it right now. I probably actually could talk gear for a straight hour and a half without taking a breath and never run out of material. There was a scandal that I unleashed, my own scandal. Congress members are dealing with scandals right now, but I had my own yesterday, I guess, for some of you. More comments on YouTube, on Rumble, on Spotify. By the way, those are all the best places to reach me. So leave a comment if you're so inclined. More comments about buying an electric lawnmower than almost anything else that we've talked about in the last couple days. What the heck is wrong with you people with the electric lawnmower talk? I had guys telling me that I needed to buy a different brand of electric lawnmower, not knowing what brand I bought. I had other people that made slights about my sexual preferences because of my lawnmower choice. Like, I'm here for it. You can't hurt my feelings. It does make me laugh. I think you guys are pretty funny. And let me address that first, because every once in a while we should just talk about funny things. I absolutely love organization. Like, I'm obsessed with it. If you've ever seen the way that my closet looks, I want to organize by color, by style. Like, I'm nutty about it. If you look at my gun safe, I organize by caliber and height. I kid you not. Like, if you go in, it's like, well, this is the short length overall 9mm carbine and whatever, like pistol caliber carbine section. This is the 30 caliber. This is 7.62 by 39 and 300 blackout and 308 short bolt action, whatever. Like, that's how I organize things. My handguns are organized by grip size, by optic type, whether they're full or compact. I'm absolutely freaking neurotic about organization. So when I decided to go pick up a lawnmower, I looked at my lawn mowing equipment, and I have a Ryobi blower, which is really underpowered and weak. And I had this Toro mower that was given to me, and it was like crapped out and is done. And then I had this Ego weed trimmer, which maybe you guys have seen them. They match my color scheme. It turns out kind of gray and green are my things. So I've got this, and it's really a great weed whacker. And so anyway, it's got this 56 volt, and I don't even know if that is great, but like it's this big ass battery with this huge charger, and it like has a cooling fan in there that sounds like it's doing really big stuff. Anyway, it was given to me as well. And so I had all these like mixed batteries and a mixed mess of garbage. And I was like, I just want consistency. So I found a special deal on a mower with an extra battery, which was a big win because I can do the whole thing. I don't have a very big lawn. It's like a quarter acre, so I can mow the whole damn thing. Came with an extra battery, which was cool because I already had the one kind of weak battery on the trimmer, and a blower, which had another deal on it. And anyway, so I went and I bought them all. So I'm all in the same battery system. I've got this bank of batteries on my wall now with 3 different chargers and a bunch of big ass batteries, and they're all the same color and they all fit each other, and I can swap them around. And the mower is pretty cool. Like it folds up into a little thing, like it folds onto itself, which is what I always hated about regular mowers, gas mowers. I can't turn them on their side because they leak. It's a long-winded answer for saying, hate all you want. I'm still a little bit uncertain about it. So yeah, I have a little bit of humility. I may be coming back to you guys and apologizing for my strong stance, but I feel like it's not worse to have batteries. Should we do news? Do you guys want news or do you want a musical update? There's the podcast sort of concern, the news media worry. This medium, here's what I think is happening. The mainstream is taking some of their deep gasps. They're not dead. You're never going to lose terrestrial television. People love sitting on a TV. Some of you are watching on a TV. By the way, I think you guys are kind of weirdos. Like, I appreciate you, but I think it's a little weird. If you see me sitting on your television, the same television that you used to watch, like, I don't know, Brian Kilmeade or Fox and Friends, or you turn on and watch a movie, that is a little weird for me. It's weird for me because I'm sitting here and I'm not expecting to be on your television. I expect to be on your phone or on your computer or whatever. But we have this strange moment where that medium is concerned that it's losing its grip. And it goes way, way back. Like, I used to sell radio airtime. You may not know this about me, but one of my first iterations, I was out of college. I sold some chairs and furniture stuff for this manufacturer out of New Jersey when I was in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then I went to work for the news station that my dad ran when I was born. And this is 7:40 a.m. KCBS out in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area. And it's been a powerhouse station for a very long time. It's this, the West Coast main named affiliate for CBS Radio. And I worked there, and they teach you, they actually did a pretty good job of sales training while I was there. And one of the reasons that radio marketing, and this actually ties in with one of our palate cleanses, because I've got the weirdest radio marketing thing you've ever heard in your life, which also ties into this whole story. Radio marketing was always thought to be effective because it's the last thing that somebody has access to. It's the last opportunity for your audience to hear about your product before they go make a buying decision. And that was always the big pitch for terrestrial radio. It was in your car, right? So as I drive to the store and I'm driving to Walmart, or I'm driving to Home Depot, or I'm driving to whatever, pre-Amazon society, you're driving in and you've got the terrestrial radio playing and it's doing news talk, and you're listening to Rush Limbaugh, Dan Bongino, or Mark Levin because you have your ears are going bad and you can't actually hear, so you don't hear him. So you're listening to whatever, right? You're listening to Clay and Buck. You're listening to whoever these people are that like yammer on and do podcast format stuff before it was podcast. And they're in your ear. They're right there with you in the car. And then it comes on. It's like, and now we're going to tell you about this great deal. Like, we're having a sale. It's a Home Depot. And go get a rake. And this rake is going to be a special deal. And you've never had a deal like this deal for this rake. Blah, blah, blah. Go get an electric lawnmower. So they would be telling you this thing. And then you walk in there and you'd be like, oh, cool. Like, they're having a sale on lawnmowers. I was actually just thinking about how my lawnmower is falling apart. So it's right there with you. And podcasts do the same thing. But they're even more portable because some people are listening to the podcast while they're doing the shopping. They're not taking the terrestrial radio with them. They're not turning on the signal and rolling with it. They literally have it in their pocket, right? It's tracking you. Your silent phone, your bag's not in a silent phone, or your phone's not in a silent bag. So you're rolling through the store and you could even be listening right then. And someone gives you an ad read about something and you can actually make a choice about it. Or maybe you get one of our Spotify ads and I have no idea. Like, maybe they're trying to sell you freaking Tide Pods. And you're like, oh, I am out of laundry detergent. Maybe I'll try a Tide Pod. Maybe I'd like some more chemicals or whatever on my clothing. And so then you do. So this is why it was super effective. And so I'm seeing this mainstream push to go like, hey, The podcast bros are not as relevant as they think they are. Their takes are fringe. Their audience is small and fringe, but the problem is that the audience of a podcast is hyper focused on the topic of the podcast. It's tied around the personality of the person talking. For better or for worse, I recognize that. So whatever my personality is, if it resonates with you, then you're listening. And then on top of it, it's the niche subject that podcast can cover. And it brings a very personal touch. So the effectiveness of selling through podcast is very high. And the cost benefit is very good. You guys don't know how this works, but like somewhere between $10 and $15 per 1,000 listeners is the general monetization rate, unless you're somebody that's really big and you can just like name your own price. So for every 1,000 listeners, I can roughly charge between $10 and $15 for my ad, right? So do the math on that. And you can actually do that across the spectrum. When I talked to Dan Bongino years ago, I said, how do I sell this podcast? Like, I don't even know how to price it. Like, what's the price that's fair? And he said, I take 15. I look at the total bulk number of video views. I multiply that by 60%. And that's the number that I give for the video. And then I take every single audio download because those are all good. And then I add that times 15. And so that's the price. The price is the assessed per 1,000 times 15 if you're a high end, times 10 if you're a low end. That's how they do it. You can see why the mainstream is so worried about this. They're so worried because there's a video format that rolls with you in your pocket, and it destroys Fox News. And nobody wants to sit and watch Fox News alert. Like, here's some bullshit that we're going to sell you. Here's some nonsensical thing. Like, Rock News, the war in Iran. It's going great. Like, they don't want that. They want a human being. I actually had the guys at Catholic Vote when we were first looking into this, when we were first doing this podcast. And some of this is just background knowledge for you guys to be aware of. I was like, I want to have a very polished, well-produced show. I want to do something that is really professional. I have this instinct to, I want my freaking garage organized by color, and I want my podcast to be solid, and I want it to look like someone who's serious. And they go, that's not where it's at right now, man. It's actually better to see someone who's behind, like the man behind the curtain pulling the levers and the wires. They want to show, what does it look like? What is the situation? This is the situation. For those of you who are watching right now, video, this is the situation. It's monitor on my left, monitor on my right, teleprompter monitor in front of me so I can look and see what's coming on the screen. A bunch of like wires and cameras. There's a light rig above me. That's it. This is what's going on. And that's more real and it's more accurate, it turns out. And we're a lot more flexible, and we're not beholden to a bunch of garbage. We're not beholden to some like huge, corporate media machine that runs everything by legal and checks with a bunch of editors. Like, sometimes I say things that are wrong. I'm sure of it. But I know it's honest, and I know that I'm the one pushing the button here that's bringing up the clip, and I'm the one who's saying what I think. And there's no way that I could read as fast as I talk. So what I'm sharing with you is just, it's in my brain. It's from my reading, it's from my assessment, and then you get it. So all of that leads me to this clip. And this might be the most like astroturfed, so fake grassroots, like fake nonsense that I've ever heard in my life. And look what they're worried about. They're trying to have a 19-year-old boy, and he is a boy, and as a former 19-year-old boy myself, I will assure you the boyness of a 19-year-old at every level. The only 19-year-old that I knew that was a man is my buddy Nate, and Nate got married at 19 because he had a baby on the way, and that was some real grown-up stuff, and that was not common. For my generation and for pretty much everybody afterwards, they're basically like little baby boys at 19 years old. I enlisted with a bunch of 19-year-old boys, and I can assure you the amount of stupidity that I saw amongst teenage boys, it's unparalleled. You will not find dumber behavior among a group of 5-year-olds if you were to compare them to a bunch of 19-year-old boys. So anyway, there's a 19-year-old boy. He's got no career. He has no life experience because he's just been online and thinking for the last 2.5 to 3 years tops. He has no wife. He has no children. He has no enlistment. He has no serious responsibility. He is a 100% fraudulent, fake weirdo that looks like he grew up in a laboratory. He looks like what would happen if they didn't torture the character Homelander, right? and they didn't give him like some sort of steroidal muscle boost. So you have a skinny, scrawny, experienceless little boy who's polished and delivers sterilized talking points. And he's talking on Fox News to Brian Kilmeade, who is also about one of the fakest people that I've ever seen. And I'm going to do a behind the scenes kind of funny fake of him. Let's start with Fox News is worried about podcasts, but also podcasts are not really that threatening, except they're going to spend time talking about it. And by the way, your cell phones are made to be addictive. Some of us actually know that because we grew up in an analog era. This kid wasn't even born when there was analog. He has no idea. But it's Fox Newsworthy.
We put a phone that is calculated to become addictive to your eyes in the hands of children the second they learn how to speak, and we're just told that that's normal. We're told that in society that's what's expected. And honestly, that addictiveness is what's made our generation the way we are. Thankfully, we're waking up to that. We're realizing that.
To keep on building on this in a way, and that is podcasts. I mean, I know so many people come up to me and say things that I don't even understand where they got it from, that, you know, the president of France's wife is a man, or that we never landed on the moon. And then you listen to some of the most popular podcasts, which I like. And they don't pretend, in many cases, to be a source of news, but a lot of it, they're so popular, they become just that. I'll give you an example. Joe Rogan talking about the genesis of our problems with Iran. Watch.
There was some file. I didn't read it, but a bunch of people sent it to me. I just went, oh, Jesus. It was from some Freedom of Information Act or some leak from the 1950s
50s and 60s.
with the CIA, and they were trying to think of different ways to make people docile and stupid and unmotivated.
Yeah.
And he went on to say that in the 50s, we overthrew a democratic government and put in Islamic extremists.
That was a pretty big jump there, Brian Kilmeade. He went on to say, now you're summarizing what the man said because you couldn't find him saying something that was really destroying the point. And then he also went on to say that actually turns out was not the case because they did a discussion in long form and debunked it. Let's get back to this guy, Brylan Hollyhand, which is even that sounds ridiculous. They don't even know how to spell what? Brylan? Brian? Okay, keep going. Anyway, they're going to have a little quick back and forth about, look at this. Look at the production on this. There's a glass table. It's made of stainless steel. There's a million patriotic colors in the background. There's stars. There's flags. There's eagles. There's a bunch of cameras on all angles. It's just, I mean, everything about, like, have any of you ever been in a room that looks like this? That's how produced this is.
And that he looked at Gemini in live time, an hour and a half later, he said, well, that didn't happen. But for the people who listened in the beginning, it did happen, Lydia.
It's all about the severity of the accusation. Even if you roll it back months later, it kind of doesn't matter. It's interesting because I think
it doesn't matter if you roll it back months later. In this exact story, they literally said that they rolled it back, that they were discussing a thing that they felt like did not happen, and they rolled it back minutes later. But she says months later. Why? Oh, because these people are frauds. They're fake. They're just making it up. There's a credibility problem here. And this is why you have a lot of people attacking folks that do it more raw. Period. It's kind of awesome. I'm going to show you Brian Kilmeade. He's just like you, guys. He's just like me. Except when he wakes up, he has multi-million-dollar contracts to go lie on Fox News. Look how normal he is. This is how normal people behave, I'm sure of it.
It's Friday, arguably my busiest day. Just put some eye drops in. I wasn't crying, I promise. But today's going to be interesting. We got 8 minutes to get downstairs.
Do it like that?
That is Lexi. There you go. So what I got today is we got a big show coming your way. And of course, Ainsley's off today, so it's going to be exciting. Always miss her, but I'm sure she'll be watching, so there's additional pressure. But
right.
Today, I got the radio show after, which is going to be big, but then I have
it's going to be the radio
show.
show.
One Nation.
And we got One
We got
Nation.
a huge show there coming your way as well. But first things first, we got to wait for the lights. This is how early it is. Like
So early.
Used to be able to walk that way. We now have a wall. Right? There you go. And then, of course, the family painter.
He works in a building just like you guys.
She's leaving.
Yes, she's leaving.
She worked all night.
Here are the snacks I ordered.
Yeah.
As you see, I demanded a wide.
Look at all those
And
snacks
eat
that he
all of
demands.
them.
Yes. That's Ed.
That's Ed.
It's been a long week. Here's Keith.
There's
There's
Kiki.
Keith. How's it going? Here's
If you
Chris.
walk through the hallways
Christopher?
in your building
Christopher,
like
Why? Am I in
this,
trouble? My mother calls me
you should be
Christopher.
headbutted.
How's it going?
Now it's time for Brian to get his makeup and hair done.
Look, I'm trying to add some color to my new suit.
Do you know how I do my hair done? I just put water in my hair and I run it through, and sometimes it looks bad. You know why? Because who cares? These people are pod people. That's not a real human being. That's not a regular person. Nobody has a friend like that. And if you do, like, you have lousy friends. That guy probably has an electric lawnmower, if I had to guess. Just kidding. It's kind of like Mark Levin the other day talking about a weed whacker. Because it's like a weed whacker. It's like, Mark, you don't have to pretend. We know that you've never done your own gardening or lawn work. I know that you've never picked weeds. I know you don't even know what weeds are. I know you don't know the difference. I know you don't know what sort of poisons might kill them. I know you've never gone out and sprayed your own ant mounds like I did yesterday with my poison on my back. You could see a spider and you'd be like, that's a big spider. But you wouldn't know what kind of spider. Oh, that's a wolf spider. Like, I don't really mind them. They're doing good things. They're killing stuff. Oh, that's a black widow. I probably shouldn't have that. I have little kids. Like, do you think any of these people have any common experience with you? And then you're going to go get news from them? No, you're not. You're going to get news from like people who are normal. And so they know that they've lost it. It's gone away. They can't get that back. Do you think Ben Shapiro, who's basically been a media face since he was a teenager as well, kind of like this Brylan Hollyhan guy, is there any chance that Ben Shapiro has almost anything in common with you at all? And what's crazy is I used to listen to Ben Shapiro. I think he's very bright. I also think the longer he's been in the business, the more wildly out of touch he is. The more he has no concept of, he doesn't go places and people recognize his freaking eyebrows. They know when his eyebrows are too long. That's how I know this stuff is getting weird. I had one person recognize me the other day at church. And it's seriously strange to me. Like, when I walk away from this desk, I'm the same guy, and I'm also surprised if you recognize me. So if you, like, come say hi, sure, but just know you're going to catch me off guard because it's weird. It's weird for me. That's not my identity for most of my life. But these people are not like that. And so their credibility is bad. That's why you got to call them a fringe audience. Well, guess what? Fringe audience, that's literally what you're pursuing when it comes to who is going to move the needle for your candidate that you're shilling for, that you used to say was a bad person. You know why? Because independents are the only gettable voters. The people that go and just go like red or blue down the line, they're already on your team. You don't have to market to your existing customer if your customer is loyal and shows up at your store 10 times a month. If I'm a regular Costco shopper, you don't need to come tell me to buy the things that I always buy at Costco. I'm already doing it. You need the guy that's never even heard of Costco to have that experience. My wife and I went to Costco many years ago before we got married. Signed up because they had a better return policy for alcohol. I kid you not. We were buying wine for our wedding. And the guy who signed us up, he was like, I'm so excited for you guys right now. Your life is about to change for the better. And we started laughing because he was so genuine about that. And like, yeah, now we go to Costco all the time. I used to drive an hour and change from Las Cruces down to El Paso to get Costco things that we got used to. You don't need to get the people that are not gettable. You need to go get the new customer. You need to go get the new voter. And this is where that big tent problem is coming in. There was a story. This is a story at Axios. This is a story that I think underscores what's going on in Congress. A shrinking tent for Donald Trump and an ethics crisis breaking point for Congress in general, across the board. It's why I think when I look at our political system, I think that it's starting to collapse under its own weight. I don't know how fast it's going to happen. I'm not going to make a prognostication about that. But I do think that our system, people are looking at it and just going, this is not real. You are not real people. Regular people don't jump on yachts and hang out with hookers. They don't have time for that. Who has time for that? Uber wealthy people. Imagine the guy like Randy Fine that we played the other day. He's a congressman out of Florida. He's on Laura Loomer's show, and he's being asked about, hey, are you a dual citizen of America and Israel? And he was like, nah, bro, not me. I'm not a dual citizen of Israel. In fact, I only went to Israel like one time before I got into Congress. And then all my trips afterwards have been since I've been a member of Congress or been in power, since I've had like legislative power. And you go, bro, do you know how weird it is to say that you've been to Israel multiple times and you've only been to Israel since you were in a political role? Put any other country in there. You're like, I never went to Greece before, but then I became a politician and I've been to Greece like every couple months. And you're like, wait, why? What does that have to do with being a politician? That's a weird thing to admit out loud. Normal people don't do that. How many of you got a job, and then suddenly your travel pattern got very unusual. It's like, unless it had to do with your actual business, right? Imagine that you're in the logistics supply chain for automobile manufacturers. And you go like, yeah, I really never went to Mexico. And then I, joined the Ford Motor Group and I started working at a plant down in El Paso. And I regularly started making trips into Mexico because that's where our supply chain came out of. And you'd be like, okay, I get it. And then you start asking, well, what part of the job in Congress requires you to go hang out in Israel? It's a really, really simple, honest question. Why did you go a bunch of times afterwards? And why is that supposed to be reassuring to me as a potential voter? Bizarre. Congress is reaching a breaking point on its ethics crisis. This is coming from Axios this morning. Congress's seemingly endless cascade of scandals has reached a partial climax on Monday, with two embattled House members announcing plans to leave Congress voluntarily rather than face possible expulsion. It may not be the end. There's a pair of lawmakers that are facing serious scrutiny by the House Ethics Committee, the threat of removal. Some lawmakers are frustrated by the glacial pace of the ethics panel, which does seem to serve the people who are in it. They've threatened to take matters into their own hand and force leaders in what both parties see as premature expulsion votes. The ethics process is completely flawed, said one House Democrat as they were venting to Axios last month. I've been deeply disappointed by the pace and the disjointed approach. Remember, you show up in the Epstein files, and a few days later, your nation might arrest you for playing with secrets. A few days later, you may have to resign and leave public life. You may have to leave your company. But if you're in politics in America, you're pretty much squared away. But we don't have 100% safety in this exact moment because there's this turning point where people are going, I'm just sick of it. I think that they're all corrupt and gross. And there's enough people in the middle that are pushing the gettable voters are going, I just don't want to vote for a scumbag. I think people are tired of the lesser of two evils. I really do. And I think this is the moment. Before I forget, if you guys are watching on YouTube, give us a like. I'd appreciate that. If you're watching on Rumble, give us a like. Also appreciate that. If you're watching on X, what are you doing? There's nobody over on there. Come join the chat. We have a great chat over on both those places. YouTube is become its own audience, which is awesome. Rumble folks, you guys are great as well. And if you are listening on Spotify, you can also leave a comment. You can only leave one, so make it a good one, but I will read it, most likely. You may hear an ad from those folks if you're on an audio platform right now. Subscribe to the channels wherever you got. Tony Gonzalez, Republican, Texas. This is not a party issue. Sheila Kerfilis McCormick, that's a terrible name, Democrat, Florida. Guilty of ethics charges, funneling $5 million in COVID relief funds. She's under federal indictment, but maintains her innocence and so far has maintained her position. Eric Swalwell, Democrat, California. Representative Corey Mills, Republican, Florida. So 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. It kind of falls into that category that we all sort of have this instinct of. Remember, there were many, many years where this was the argument. This is why we had historically favorable ratings for individual congresspeople in their district and historically unfavorable ratings for Congress writ large. And the reason why is every freaking political ad you've ever heard, they're all the same. For my whole life and probably your whole life if you're older than me. It looks like this. I'm Kyle Seraphin. Those crooks in Washington are robbing you blind. They don't represent you and they don't do anything that you like. They're bad people and they're awful people and everyone knows it and nobody wants to be around them because they're slime balls. Send me to Washington so I can fight for the things that you love. I'm filling my mouth for farts, right? We played that the other day. They all say the same thing. Send me to Washington where I'll fight for blah, 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 blah. I'll fight for blah, 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 blah. And I'll fight for blah, 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 blah. I'll fight for the Epstein transparency. Here's Eric Swalwell, who has announced that he's stepping down. He's going to step down. This is only like 6 months ago. He was talking about this. He was going to be the deciding vote or darn near it. He was right on the edge of making sure that we could get Epstein transparency about sexual assault victims because that's what he really cares about. I'm there to fight for women. I'm there to fight for green energy. I'm there to fight for dogs who have only one ear and you love them and I love them too. Here you go.
216. I was the 216th person to sign the Epstein petition to release all of the files and finally bring justice for these victims. So we're just 2 away. 2 more members sign it, and we are on our road to justice. I was proud to do it as a former prosecutor, as somebody who has spent my time in Congress working to stand up for the rights of victims. And now I'm calling on my Republican colleagues. This is not about red team versus blue team. This is about sexual assault victims who deserve justice. Do the right thing. Go sign that petition.
Sounds great, right? So that's how it started. And I guess this is how it's going right now.
A lot has been said about me today through anonymous allegations, and I thought it was important that you see and hear from me directly. These allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They are absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened, and I will fight them with everything that I have. They also come on the eve of an election where I have been the frontrunner candidate for governor in California. I do not suggest to you in any way that I'm perfect or that I'm a saint. I have certainly made mistakes in judgment in my past, but those mistakes are between me and my wife. And to her, I apologize deeply for putting her in this position. I also apologize to you if in any way you have doubted your support for me. But I think you know who I am. For over 20 years, I have served the public. As a city councilman, as a member of Congress, and as a prosecutor who went to court on behalf of victims, particularly on behalf of sexual assault victims. That's who I am and have always been. This weekend, I'm going to spend time with my family and friends, and I appreciate those who have reached out to me to show support, and I look forward to updating you very soon.
Hi, I'm Gil Fulbright. The people who run my campaign, they've made this commercial, and I'm in it. This campaign, it's not about me. It's about crafting a version of me that'll appeal to you. A version that visits random work sites with paid actors pointing at things. A version of me that doesn't find old people loathsome or pointless. Has a conventionally attractive yet curiously still family. Listening to my constituents, legislating, these are things I don't do. What I do is spend about 70% of my time raising funds for re-election. I'd do anything to stay in office. My name's Gil Fulbright, but hell, I'll change my name to Phil Goldbright, or Bill Fulbright, or fill up my mouth with farts. These are the things that are important to me. And these are the fine people that finance my campaign. Now, in order to do these things, I have to stay in office. And to stay in office, I have to keep these guys happy. Now, if any of these things make these guys unhappy, well, my hands are tied. So come November, the choice is clear. Do you want another spineless mouthpiece for special interest and lobbyists? Or a spineless mouthpiece for special interest and lobbyists? I'm Philip a Mouth with Farts, and I approve this message. Hi.
Are they not all the same? Oh, it's so honest. Representative Swalwell plans to resign from Congress after accusations of sexual assault. The announcement comes after the Democrat ended his campaign for governor in California, and the House Ethics Committee launched a probe into his sexual misconduct allegations. You'll notice that that came on pretty quick and pretty aggressively. You know what I don't see? I don't see Corey Mills troubled by his allegations, which are significant. There's court cases, there's restraining orders, there's police reports, there's all kinds of reporting that my buddy Steve Baker was involved in. Oh, you think that would be part of how he's made an enemy? There's tons and tons and tons of money, which don't make a lot of sense. There's allegations of stolen valor, you know, but he's also buddies with Kash Patel. They hang out together. And as far as we can tell, it looks like Corey Mills' like fixer chick is now working at the FBI in the job of Marshall Yates in the Congressional Affairs spot, which is called the Assistant Director for Congressional Affairs. So they're probably safe for now because they're not the party in power. And you've got this guy getting kicked out. Now, listen, I already endorsed Eric Swalwell for governor of California because I want to find people that want to take their foot, put the pedal to the metal, and jump this car off the cliff. The sooner it crashes under its own weight, the happier I'm going to be. So I think I may have to rethink my endorsement now that he's out and potentially get behind Katie Porter. I can't think of anybody worse to run the state of California than an abusive, chubby, ugly lady. And she is all of those things inside and out. So maybe that's the right answer. So stand by. We'll have an endorsement maybe shortly. I like the idea of endorsing politicians that are awful, that are going to make everything really obvious to you. Like, I'm all about, like, let's see what's going on behind the curtain. Let's just check it out. Make it gross. This story from Swalwell is kind of fun. There's another little bit here. Again, two things happening at once. One, he's dropping out of the California governor's race. Two, he's leaving his seat in Congress, which means they're going to have to figure out a little special election there. And I don't know if they'll do it in time for November or not. The allegations are totally false. And you guys know that when someone makes a false allegation against you, the first thing you do is you resign to fight those false allegations. And you decide to not pursue your job. Do you know how many false allegations have been lobbied or bandied about me or some of my buddies? And do you know what it's done to change our path? Nothing. Do you know why? Because they're false allegations. They're false allegations. If they are fake, if they are not true, then you have what's called, truth on your side. And you just go, okay, yeah. Now, unless they're just technically false, but there's like a lot of truth about them, that could be really problematic. So then you have to worry. It's kind of like when we looked at the Epstein files, which Swalwell was so proud to support, and you realize, okay, a bunch of people have resigned. A bunch of people have left their jobs. They've left their companies. They sold them. They've been arrested for other things, totally not involved in child sex trafficking or whatever, or underage, teenage sex trafficking. And they had nothing to do with each other. Except no real people believe that. That's not particularly honest, is it? We can't really do that. We have to look at things in the totality of the circumstances and go, I don't know anybody that's been falsely accused of something and then decided to make huge life decisions about the false accusation knowing that they were in the right. So consider those things. What other fun things do we have? How about Tony Gonzalez? Let's go to the other side of the aisle. Here we go. This is from ABC. GOP Representative Tony Gonzalez, who was going back and forth with the AK guy, Brandon Herrera. He was able to eke out a victory the last time, and now you've got him stepping down. He faced the threat of expulsion as well after he admitted to having an affair with a staffer. That's not really the story. It's that the staffer ended up not being on this planet with us anymore. Texas Republican Representative Tony Gonzalez announced Monday, that was yesterday, that he's stepping down from Congress on Tuesday amid threats to expel him over an affair from a staffer. This is where we're getting. The idea that you can invoke the name of God when you're the scumbag and everybody sees from the outside that you're the scumbag. Yeah. There's a season for everything, and God has a plan for all of us. And when Congress returns tomorrow, I plan to file my retirement. Can we not? Can we just not? It's been my privilege to serve the great people of Texas, he wrote in a statement on X. Last month, he dropped out of his re-election bid following calls from House Republican leadership to exit the race after he admitted to an affair with a staffer who later died by suicide. That seems pretty important. At the time, he remained committed to completing the remainder of his term, which was set to expire in January, but he actually realized that he could not, in fact, do that. These people end up getting wind of, hey, you're probably on the way out, and so you've got two choices. You can try to ride it to the end and watch them run you out of town on a rail, or you can voluntarily do something, say that it's God's season and he wills it that I go home. Again, kind of a lack of hubris. I'm sorry, a lack of humility, and that is sort of the hubris thing where you think you can lie to us, and we're just going to hear it. We had another moment as such like that with Trump yesterday. Spoke from the White House. He was addressing the problem of whether or not he had decided to cast himself via meme, AI-generated meme, as Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And that's a pretty big reach for anybody, including Donald Trump, who has a famously large ego. It's a pretty strong move. There's basically three possibilities, because we covered this yesterday's show. It was on the thumbnail. There are three possibilities with this. Here, actually, I have here's the picture. You can look at the picture, and you know that is how Jesus is portrayed in pretty much all Western imagery. Now, you could take the interesting position that Bill Mitchell did. I saw that this morning, and it was my favorite thing that I've seen since I woke up. I got up this morning, I'm looking through the internet, and what do I see? Bill Mitchell, who I believe was a never Trumper. You guys correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. He said, I am a religious person. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm going to just assume that's not true. Because why not? Because I can think whatever I want. I am a religious person, and I was not offended by this picture of Donald Trump because I knew that he was not trying to be Jesus. I thought he was just one of Jesus's friends. And he doesn't give a reason why he thinks that, although I assume that the reason he thought he was one of Jesus's friends is because he was dressed like Jesus, and you'd assume that Jesus would dress like the people around him. That would make sense. Look, it's not so much the issue that he sent out a stupid meme. It really isn't, not to me. It's the fact that he didn't realize how stupid, how tone deaf it is. And so it kind of leads me to three possible scenarios, because he went out and claimed that he didn't think that he was putting up a Jesus meme. He thought he was putting up a Red Cross meme. There's three possibilities with the answer to that. Number one, he thinks that you're retarded. Number two, he's retarded. Or number three, you actually are retarded. I'm not sure that those are necessarily mutually exclusive, but the audience for Donald Trump dressed as Jesus is not actually Jesus. He's actually just a doctor that loves healing people, and he makes people better. Well, paging Dr. Trump, we need you to fix this country and stop dicking around overseas. That would have been great. Here he is answering a question, and he's going to blame the media. This is why the podcast media is so much more important.
Did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better. As an example, the 11,000, I understand your husband's going through treatment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's going through some very serious cancer treatment, so
yes, sir.
This goes a long way.
Yes, sir, it sure does.
Yeah, he brought a lady to do a fake DoorDash. They staged a DoorDash, which was to deliver McDonald's, but Donald Trump forgot it was McDonald's and he thought it was pizza because he didn't read the script. And so they brought this lady who's previously showed up at other things to pretend to be a delivery person, or she is a delivery person, and they just thought she was a good messenger since she's a old lady covered in tattoos. You know, the big tent, I guess. And so Axios' lead story this morning is Donald Trump's incredible shrinking tent. Well, it turns out people that thought you were a truth teller, that thought you were honest, that thought you came in with the right intentions, that said that you love America, and so therefore you're going to do the things that you said. The people who looked at you and thought maybe you'll keep your 20 core promises to the American people, and you'll seal the border, and you'll stop the migrant invasion, and you'll carry out the largest deportation operation in American history, that you'll end inflation, make America affordable again. Those are just the top three. We'll just leave with those right there. The people that thought you would try to defend the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that would prevent World War III and restore, peace in the Middle East and Europe and all that guy. If they thought you were that, and then it turns out that you're a fake, and you've cast yourself in the role of Jesus Christ, which you actually pretend to be a doctor, it doesn't resonate with normal people. Donald Trump is torching the coalition that made him president, seemingly unaware or seemingly unconcerned by the depth of discontent permeating his movement. My buddy Viva had my friend Alfredo Luna on the other day, and they were talking about the MAGA divide. I don't think there's a MAGA divide. I think the MAGA people are in category one. They're the people that Donald Trump thinks they are. They're just behaving like retards. And I'm not mad at them. I just look at them and just go like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know why you're doing that. I don't know why that's interesting to you. Cognitive dissonance is strong. It's really, really hard to overcome that bias that you have, that he must be doing the right thing because I need him to do the right thing, because if he's not doing the right thing, all hope is lost. That's just not a very Christian position. That's idolatry. And we've done entire programs on this talking about idolatry. If you put your hope in men, you will be disappointed. If you put your hope in Eric Swalwell, he's the guy that's going to save California. Well, guess what? He's going to do some sexual assaults or find a sex worker cheat on his wife and be a scumbag or hook up with a Chinese spy or whatever. Like, he's going to do something that's going to disappoint you, it turns out. You can put your hope in Tony Gonzalez. He's the guy. He's down here representing the Rio Grande Valley. It's like, yeah, he may also have like slept with a chick until she killed herself. Like, oh, that's not great. They might all be dirtbags. They might all be filling my mouth with farts, right? They may all just say something. They're just playing a role on TV. The problem with playing a role on TV long enough, especially when you've been doing it for decades and decades, is that sometimes you start thinking you're all that guy. You actually believe it. I'm going to play you Glenn Beck in a second. I think Glenn Beck actually is that guy now. It reminds me of a story from O. Henry. I think it's called The Mask or The Saint. I can't remember which one it is. But essentially, this guy basically, he's like ugly and he's hideous and he's villainous and he's wicked and he does all these bad things. And so he wants to win the heart of this beautiful princess. And the only way he could do it is by being a saint. And so he gets a mask maker to make him a mask that is the mask of a saint, a person who has a face of virtue. And so then he goes and he woos and he courts this girl and she falls in love with him. She falls in love with the face of the saint and he starts behaving like a saint. He starts acting the way that he needs to be able to get this woman to believe that he is the saint that he's been pretending to be. And for over and over again. And then she falls in love and they get married and all this other stuff. And then, and one day he's like, he can't take it anymore. He has to admit to her that he's not the man. He's just a man wearing a mask. And he takes off the mask and the face under the mask is the face that he's been acting like. And he has the face of the saint that he was behaving like. You know, kind of like you'll know them by their fruits or their actions will tell you who they are. If you pretend to be someone long enough, I think you end up becoming that person. We probably all have examples in our lives of people that they do an act for so long, they end up becoming that human being in front of you. It's kind of a reminder of why you're supposed to behave properly. In sales, we say you can fake it until you make it. A lot of people will pretend to be really successful until they actually get the success. They behave as though they're successful, and that actually leads to being successful because people want to be part of a winning team. I honestly think that Donald Trump may have been pretending to be this thing long enough that he actually buys his own bullshit, which is a really, really dangerous thing to do, especially if you're in a political position, especially if you're in charge of the most powerful nation in the world. Why does it matter? Here's the story. We'll go back to Axios. Donald Trump won the White House in the most eclectic alliance in modern politics. Yeah, let's see how they get it here. A blend of MAGA diehards, crypto evangelists, non-white men, that's a weird one to put in there, podcast bros, anti-war populists, culture war Christians. Let's also add in their OnlyFans stars and like recovering transgender people, right? It was a pretty bizarre group with a fair amount of like homosexuality and, decidedly non-conservative positions. This is why when I say that Donald Trump is a 90s Democrat, I'm not saying it as an insult. I'm saying that he's a 90s Democrat because he's not a conservative. And for all of the people that put on a MAGA hat and assume that that means we're going to make America as it was a long time ago when things were better, a 90% Christian nation, a nation that understood right from wrong, a nation that wanted to have smaller government and wanted to solve problems with communities, like at the lowest level, that didn't vote for like the federal government to come in and solve crises that could be handled like, hey, whose bathroom is that? Like, I don't know, this person is confused. This is a chick who cut her hair really short, dyed it bright orange, put nose rings in, and she's obviously going through something. Maybe we can let her use the unisex bathroom or the family bathroom so she doesn't have to go into the ladies' room, which freaks her out, and she doesn't have to go into the men's room, which she's going to get the crap beat out of her. That seems like a local solution. Like, okay, that's compassionate. Wouldn't that be interesting? No. Republicans celebrated a once-in-a-generation coalition that may have turned out exactly that, never to be reassembled. A once-in-a-generation move. This is why people are so frustrated with Donald Trump. So many people didn't see who he was. Again, I think I was fair about this at the time, and I think I'm going to continue to be fair. Donald Trump is not a conservative. To expect him to be conservative is wrong, and it's a recipe for being sad. Of course, he thought he was Jesus. Of course, he's going to lie to you and never admit that he's wrong. Of course, he's going to do things that are completely absurd. He's an absurd person. He said absurd things forever. This is just the nature of who he is. I'm not mad that Donald Trump is not who he said he is. I'm just saying that he put a lot of promises out there that were totally doable. They would have been audacious. They would have been on brand for a man who is completely audacious. And the audacity of Donald Trump was what we hoped he would do. That's why people are mad. Looks like this. You're going to do the largest deportation operation in American history? Let's freaking go. Yeah. Sorry, can't do that. I'm going to bomb Iran instead because Israel said so. Yeah, and I'm going to remind you, Israel said so. Everybody said it. All the people that were around Donald Trump told us that that's where it came from. Zoom in over the last 2 weeks. Donald Trump has tested the loyalty of MAGA's Christian base with a series of extraordinary provocations. It began on Easter when he threatened to bomb Iranian power plants and bridges in a profanity-laced True Social post signed off with "Praise be to Allah." Yeah, you guys remember that? That was like a week ago. 2 days later, he warned Iran that an entire civilization will die tonight, appalling some of his closest former allies, including Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones and Candace Owens. I think reasonable people would look at that and go, that is a just juvenile, childish take. That is something I expect from a retarded 19-year-old in the military. And I'm not mad at them when they say it, by the way. I totally get that. You have to actually have that mentality to go do super dangerous, stupid things that grown men would go, nah, it's probably not going to result in a good outcome for me. But if you're in your 80s and you're going to end with, we're going to end an entire civilization, and you're going to say it to the entire world and everyone's going to read it, that might be a problem. And on Sunday night, he attacked Pope Leo the 14th, the first American-born pope, as weak on crime and terrible on foreign policy. A man who is a spiritual leader, not my favorite. I don't love popes. It turns out I'm like one of these Catholics that looks at the Pope always as like sort of like, how are you going to betray the faith? And yet, it turns out Pope Leo the 14th has zero to do with crime in the United States or governance of America. He also has zero to do with foreign policy. And if you think that a Christian leader would not have the position that starting a war is a bad thing and wiping out a civilization is a moral evil, like, what planet do you live on? Probably the same planet that believes that Donald Trump thought he was dressed up as a doctor. He couldn't even get his own staff on board. We're seeing the sort of like attempt for J.D. Vance to try to rehab the image of him and Donald Trump simultaneously, and I don't know that it's successful. Here's J.D. Vance being asked a question, and this is Bret Baier, who's a super serious journalist, and as a super serious journalist, in order to get all of the things in, his question lead up is 1 minute long, which is an eternity when you're doing a TV media hit. Like, I can just say things for 60 seconds and make fun of somebody. That's the nature of this type of podcast. Bret Baier, 60 seconds of prime time Fox News viewership. He just drones on with his question. Here we go.
Pope Leo has expressed problems with the war in Iran, says that we should be peacemakers, been very vocal. The president took to True Social saying Leo should be thankful because, as everyone knows, he was a shocking surprise. He wasn't on any list to be pope, was only put there because the church, because he was an American, they thought he would be good, best way to deal with President Donald J. Trump. If I wasn't in the White House, Leo wouldn't be in the Vatican. Just wondering, as a Catholic, how you consider this Truth Social post, and then the post of the picture, which a lot of people took as the president posting a picture of himself as Jesus. He later said that he posted it as thinking as a doctor saving people.
I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support, and only the fake news could come up with that one.
Only the retarded audience of Fox News would believe what Donald Trump just said right there. All right, we're almost to the question.
But it really caused a kerfuffle, Mr. Vice President. I'm just wondering what you make of all of this, and whether it's what you think of this back and forth with the church.
Well, first of all, Brett, I think the president was posting a joke, and of course he took it down because he recognized that a lot of people weren't understanding his humor in that case.
Guys, you're too dumb to understand the humor of Donald Trump. That's your problem. It was a joke. Do you want to know how I know it was wrong? In the same way that I know that people did stuff with Epstein that they shouldn't have. They lost their job. They got arrested for other reasons. It's pretty simple. If you have to take down a post because you don't have the courage of your convictions, if you have to leave the race because of fake allegations, you're kind of making a tacit admission that you knew it was wrong.
I think the president of the United States likes to mix it up on social media. And I actually think that's one of the good things about this president is that he's not filtered. He doesn't send everything through a communications professional. He actually reaches out directly to the people. You know, when it comes to the disagreements with the Vatican, look, we're going to have disagreements, Brett, from time to time. I think it's a good thing, actually, that the Pope is advocating for the things that he cares about. But we're always going to have disagreements on matters of public policy, or I should say, sometimes we're going to have disagreements on matters of public policy. The Pope has been critical of our immigration policy, but ultimately the immigration policy of the United States is set by Donald Trump. The Pope is going to have disagreements on other issues. We can respect the Pope. We certainly have a good relationship with the Vatican, but we're also going to disagree on substantive questions from time to time. I think that's a totally
reasonable take. I just want to show you guys the joke again so we can all just evaluate the humor in this picture. So there's a man who's the president of the United States with a glowing left hand like E.T., touching the head of another man who's laying peacefully in bed while a soldier and a nurse and some random lady praying in the corner and some other person praying off camera and a guy with a hat that looks like he would be wearing a Vietnam veteran era hat, but it's not a veteran hat. We don't know what it is. With the American flag in the background and a shining burst of light with an eagle and the Statue of Liberty looking on and a fighter jet and some soldiers and maybe a demon. Ha 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 ha! Like, what? That's funny. That's a joke. So JD Vance trying to lighten up. Donald Trump is like, no, I just thought that was a doctor. Every doctor I've ever had always wore like a first century tunic and like a draped robe over the top of him. Isn't that what doctors do? Again, he either thinks you're retarded, he's retarded, or you actually are retarded. Like, I don't know if you believe all that. It's not funny. There's nothing funny about this. It's just dumb. And it's interesting because it's right on the heels of him picking a fight with the Pope, of all people. And you know who actually accurately diagnosed this situation in 2018? It's Lindsey Graham. You guys like Lindsey Graham? I'm going to play you that in 1 second. Take a deep breath. We're going to get a little gay here in a second. I said it. Guys, if you're watching on Rumble, give us a like. Same thing on YouTube. Subscribe to the channels wherever you can. Appreciate all the new subscribers over on YouTube. You guys are great. And it has made us... It's bumping us up. Let's see right now. We have 750 people watching live from my end. That's what I see on YouTube. And I did a little research on that. Like the number of channels that can sustain like over 500 live viewers is not very many. I mean, I've seen channels with like 100,000 that don't get that. So thank you for showing up in the morning. You guys are great. Again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. And you may hear an ad from the folks on Spotify if you're on the audio platforms right now. Okay, let's do Lindsey Graham. Let's gay it up a little bit. I said it. Again, I feel like it's true. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Lindsey Graham, accurate diagnosis of Donald Trump. Ready to go.
You could be the Pope and criticize him. It doesn't matter. He'll go after the Pope. You could be Putin and say nice things and he'll like you. It's not the content of your character. It's whether or not you show him respect and like him.
Is that not true? Does Lindsey Graham not speak the truth? And did he not learn the game? Which is why he's now the MAGA and you're not, many of you. You're no longer MAGA. Mark Levin and Lindsey Graham are. Mark Levin, who's going to be on the Dan Bongino podcast because podcasts are totally irrelevant and they have a fringe audience, right?
Take this to be for the Republican base?
I don't think it's a major issue for the Republican base. I think the president is exactly right to call this out for what it is, which is people who have fringe audiences. They have large numbers, but fringe audiences in terms of the broader overall Republican audience. Multiple polls have shown over the course of the last month and a half that the president has 80 to 90% support inside the Republican Party for his actions in Iran. There was a poll maybe 2 weeks ago that showed that the support for people like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly versus the president is 6%. So I think that...
Just to be clear, the poll was, what does the president of the United States and theoretically the leader of the free world is the way that he was always cast when I was growing up. What is his favorability against a guy who does a podcast as described by a guy who does a podcast on a legacy news network? That's what fringe looks like. The reason that Ben Shapiro runs onto a legacy news network is because he needs the credibility of the legacy news. The people that have left it, the former Fox people, and that includes Megyn Kelly, who I'm not a big fan of and I think is kind of gutless. Tucker Carlson, who I don't agree with every time, but like he makes sense and I think he's a smart person. He's obviously a talented broadcaster. He's very engaging to watch. Why are they not seeking out mainstream, quote unquote, mainstream legacy media? And Ben Shapiro is. Because we're seeing this prop where people are trying to basically say, like, I'm still credible. I do the credible thing that the president says. A man who's 80 and I would guess doesn't know how to download a podcast. Most likely. If I had to guess. I don't know how many podcasts he's ever listened to, but having him talk about it with people like Theo Vaughn and go on with Joe Rogan, it doesn't sound like he understands what the medium is. Nor is it aimed at him, it turns out. Kind of interesting. All right. Why would you end up in a space where you no longer have any normal touch? Why you don't have any sort of concept of how regular people would see your so-called joke? where you dressed up and pretended to be Jesus in an AI thing. It's not funny. It's not clever. It's not interesting. It's just kind of culty. And the people that instinctively are going to go out there and defend it, they reveal more about themselves than they do about Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump thinks that they're retarded, and then they may actually be retarded because they're like, you're so sad about this. I'm like, no, I just think it's blasphemous and I just think it's gross. That says more about Donald Trump than it says about me. It turns out if you want to dress up like a pregnant nun for Halloween, I just think you're gross. It's not funny. It's not inherently interesting. It's not edgy. It's just lame. It's a person who has bad taste. That's what it looks like to me. And maybe you might think like that if you're surrounded by people that do stuff like this. Blow healing light up your a-hole like this lady. This is Paula White. This is my second favorite clip. I'm going to play you my favorite clip in 1 second.
Oh, Laura, as you said, this is probably my favorite subject to talk about. First off, to give honor to God and to President Trump for being bold and unwavering with his faith. Many people don't know, like you do, and say hello to Eric and everyone in the family about the upbringing of President Trump, that he went to sometimes 3 times a week to, he said it depended on the teacher, to Saturday school, Sunday school, church. It was at Norman Vincent Peale's. Church was a big part of his life, of course.
Of course, it was a big part of his life. I mean, everybody knows that when you know about Donald Trump, what you know is that a big part of his life was church. And that's why she loves to talk about this thing. Is that Paula White talking about the same man that has his favorite book is the Bible, but he doesn't know anything in the Bible? Maybe he just means he likes to carry the Bible because he likes the way that it feels, like it has a lot of heft to it. Or he likes the really skinny. You can imagine Donald Trump be like, what do you like about the Bible? And he'd be like, I like how the pages are really, really skinny. They're like a rolling paper for a cigarette. That's what I like. I like how the pages all have gold on the end of them. I've always liked that. And the words are in gold on the front. That's what I like. I like that a lot of people buy it.
Okay. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. And you said, I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what 1 or 2 of your most favored Bible verses are and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal. So I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that you like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal. I think it's just an incredible... The whole Bible is incredible. I joke very much so. They always hold up the Art of the Deal. I say my second favorite book of all time. But I just think the Bible is just something very special.
It's just very special. That's why so many people have bought it. A lot of people have said it. I'm an Old Testament and a New Testament guy. I don't like to come down on one side or the other because I wouldn't like to say which one is more important to me personally. All the verses are so good. I mean, they're all so good. It reminds me of that moment in the movie Meet the Fockers, when you're completely out of your depth and you don't know what you're talking about. And so they're like, oh, like, you know, how's your portfolio, Greg? And he's like, I'd say it's strong to quite strong, right? You think we don't see that? Maybe you shouldn't have a faith advisor that looks like she's trying to be some bootleg version of a Lord of the Rings character named Galadriel. Do you guys remember? I think Cate Blanchett played this character. Is that right? I think so. Paula White, freakishly weird, like tongue-talking, gibberish scumbag who looks like an old school Robert Tilton style televangelist to me. That's what she looks like to me. Having grown up in the shadow of the Robert Tilton Word of Faith Church, which made a ton of money, this woman dressed like Galadriel and then went out and said, God told me to say thank you to God and to Donald Trump. I guess if you bought this kind of BS, like then it might actually start. If you were surrounded by this 24/7, I don't know how long you could wear that mask and not take it off and be a Looney Tunes guy who thinks that you actually are Jesus or thinks that people think you are. So you might as well play it. Here she is doing some sort of faith thingy, kind of gross.
But as I prayed, it was like the Holy Spirit just zoned me in.
That's what the Holy Spirit does, by the way, zones you in.
Tell President Trump how thankful you are for him.
Cool.
And I think
Galadriel dress. The clapping goes on way too long. It's super awkward for no reason.
I felt like I was conveying the heart of God for all of us.
Yeah, you were conveying the heart of God for all of us. Keep going.
That we are thankful for the greatest champion of faith that we've ever seen in a president. And we honor you because of your bold, unwavering conviction and stand for religious liberty here in America and around the world.
Right. What? Didn't we bomb like a school full of girls? And didn't we sort of like ignore a bunch of people in Nigeria who were Christians who were being killed? Just asking. And
you recognize the power and the name of Jesus Christ. I remember when we told our first briefing, you can now...
Guys, I don't know if you've ever been to a briefing, but no one's ever told a first briefing. So she's not even smart or articulate, but she is a expert knob slobber in public. This is borderline pornographic, obviously.
Pray again and worship again. They begin to shout and praise and say, thank you, Lord, and sing in their highest ways.
That's all I can handle. Think about whenever you've gotten good news, like you're now allowed to pray again, and you began to sing in your highest ways. Like what? I went down and I told my wife, we did the taxes. I did the taxes and it's okay. I've written a check to the government. And she began to sing in her highest ways. So saith Galadriel, this freakish creep. If you're surrounded by that, maybe you just don't know what's going on. Maybe that's just how you end up. So there you go. Trump angered some ardent supporters with an AI image appearing to predict him as Jesus. The president was accused of blasphemy by evangelical Christians who have been his most ardent supporters. I can imagine if you didn't realize that he was a atheistic, like 90s Republican or 90s Democrat, just a straight up liberal, non-religious man who couldn't tell you his favorite half of the Bible. That's an easy question, by the way, for Christians. It's like, do you love the Old Testament more or the New Testament? And I'd be like, well, the Old Testament kind of described how God had a lot of vengeance and a lot of darkness, and how he made a promise to people, and it was tough. And then the New Testament is about the fulfillment of the promise and the expansion to everybody. That included me, and I was pretty into that. That was pretty cool. As a Christian, it's not even a question. Yes, you have to understand the context, but man, isn't it cool? Everybody gets to be saved. You don't have to have a special bloodline. You don't have to do like weird things like not eat bacon. You can eat bacon. Love it. Big fan. I'm being flippant, of course, but this is pretty funny. And all of that on the background of him talking to this lady. I'm going to show you this video here. This is coming from the NBC webpage. I'm just going to leave it on the screen for a second as they show. Look, she's delivering McDonald's to President Trump. It's a fake DoorDash grandma delivery thing. And this is the backdrop where he was being asked that question about like, oh, like, how do you feel about this thing? So now I want to play you him asking that woman, who I'm going to show you has done this thing as a prop before. He's going to ask her a question about men and in women's sports. This is partially because he decided to go after Riley Gaines yesterday. I don't really care what Riley Gaines says. Really? Well, you're talking about the topic that Riley Gaines is really into, which is like, men shouldn't be in women's sports, which, by the way, was one of the 20 plans to make America, or 20 promises to make America great again. Watch him ask this question. She says, I'm only here to talk about the DoorDash. And he tries to preempt her answer and say pizza because he received bags of McDonald's, but he doesn't even know it's McDonald's. Ready, go.
They want to have men playing in women's sport. Do you think that men should play in women's sports?
I really don't have an opinion on that.
You don't? I'll bet you do.
No, I'm here about
pizza.
No tax on tips.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm here about pizza. I mean, no tax on tips. I mean, yeah, we'll just make it up as we go. It doesn't even matter. We'll just say it, whatever makes sense. Has she ever done this sort of like be a prop before? Yeah, she has. Here's a hearing where she was discussing it.
Simmons, thank you for appearing today. You gave heartfelt testimony. If you can, and you don't know what you don't know, but from your perspective, what do you think this bill is ultimately going to mean for you?
You're asking an old lady who does deliveries for extra money, which I'm not mad at her for doing, about what she thinks a bill is going to do related to the tax code.
and the savings that you're going to have.
I'm just making a blank face. Excuse me, ma'am. I know you haven't read this bill, and I know you don't really know much about anything, and your life decisions have led you to a point where you're in your elderly years and you're working now as a DoorDash lady, and we brought you here to do this sort of like theatrical presentation. Can you tell people about saving money and what it would mean to not pay taxes on some of that money, even if you don't know what it really looks like in the reality of it and you can't read the bill because it hasn't been passed yet? And she was like, yes, I'd be happy to do that. I'd also love to fly to the White House to deliver pizza and or McDonald's or whatever Donald Trump says, and then not weigh in on whether or not men should be in women's sports.
Well,
there she goes.
Again, I believe that...
What is going on there? Okay. We got neck tattoo. We got a cross. We got partial sleeve on the left arm going down to the elbow. Looks like she could probably wear that in uniform back in the day. Lots going on here. They definitely cleaned her up for the White House version.
You know, it's going to free up some stuff for me. It means that I'm going to be able to stay more connected with my family.
No tax on tips means it's going to free up some stuff for me and allow me to stay more connected to my family. Tell me more.
In Missouri, it's going to help with...
By the way, for those of you that are making drug allegations, the Missouri thing did not help what she was trying to push out there.
Any future treatments. God forbid that he has to have more treatments, but...
This is last year. Donald Trump just brought up that her husband is going to need more treatments for cancer. That's why he's a doctor. He's helping people with no tax on tips.
It will help more with that. You know, it is truly, DoorDash is truly a independent, you know, industry.
I'll just tell you this. I've always dreamed of working for myself and no one else. And so what I was hoping is that some teenage goofball at a college campus would put in an order for McDonald's and then I could go get it and bring it to some lazy asshole who can't even go get their own freaking food. It's truly given me a sense of independence to slave myself for a company that makes money on my labor to bring fast food to people who are too lazy to go get their own fast food. I actually try not to be particularly mean. That might be one of the most shilling, dumbest, horrible things I've ever heard. Yikes. Listen, I'm 100% behind the idea of people making your food. I used to run restaurants. I get it. Like, service industry is in my background for years. I used to wait tables. What I can't figure out is the person who made the food and set out the food. Now you're paying a secondary delivery person who's also paying the company that created the app so that you can make some small thing on top of it. That's freedom, apparently.
And I enjoy that part of it.
Right.
I like being able to, you know, just do what I need to do. And
want you guys to consider if that would be true about you as well. Would you say that you like to be able to do what you need to do? Would you like to do it yourself? This reminds me of the Steve Carell skit in the 40-year-old version where he's just repeating back nonsensical lines to the woman.
Freeing up this extra money means quite a bit to my family.
Okay, got it. All right, I'm tracking. Yep. So what's that all about?
They want to have men playing in women's sport. Do you think that men should play in women's sports?
I really don't have an opinion on that.
You don't? I'll bet you do.
No, I'm here about...
They really cleaned her up, which was a great move. The longer sleeves with the sort of uber long sleep shirt nighty thing, toned down the eye makeup, changed up the hair, covered up the tattoos, a little bit lower key on the cross. Her own branding, DoorDash grandma, smart, super smart. And then he gave her $100. Nice work. I hope she got paid more than that for this thing, whatever this is.
No tax on tips.
Yeah. Okay.
There's this great scene, and I don't know if I grabbed it too. I definitely have the video of it somewhere, but like Trump is doing this thing where he's just like, He's shaking his shoulders back and forth with his hands around his waist, and she's doing the same thing. They're both like awkwardly just going like, it reminds me of what my 2-year-old does when she comes down and says weird things to me. She'll get up in the morning and she'll walk down and she'll be like, Daddy, I woke up. Now I'm awake. Donald Trump does the same exact move with her. It's actually really good. I should find it. Hold on. Let's find out if gas is going to get better. Let's just figure out if that's going to happen first.
Last thing, should the American people be ready for more increased prices, especially at the gas tank, considering that this does not look like it's going to resolve very quickly as far as the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, the president said, Brett, that yes, gas prices are higher. Yes, energy prices are higher. First of all, they're higher from a baseline where we've never had the terrible energy prices that we had of the last administration. So we come at this from a position of strength. But, Brett, absolutely, we know the American people are hurting. That's why that we're negotiating so aggressively to try to get the energy prices to come down. We're going to keep on working at it. I do think that we're in a place where we've accomplished our objectives. We can start to wind this thing down. I'd much rather wind this thing down with a big successful negotiation. But regardless, the president said this is not going to go on forever. That's never his intention. And I think because of that, the energy prices, while painful, are not going to be around forever.
Mr. Vice President, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what real news looks like. We're going to just ask a question, say your thing. No challenge. Like, what happened to promise number 3? You're going to end inflation and make America affordable again. What happened to you're going to try to make things? You care about the domestic agenda? Nope. Still going to be pricey. Okay, can I show you the funny little video of the lady doing the same thing? This is actually the clip I've shown you 3 times, but you weren't watching for it. Watch Donald Trump's shoulders and watch her shoulders when they awkwardly decide that she didn't deliver pizza and they're not here to talk about women's sports.
They want to have men playing in women's sport. Do you think that men should play in women's sports?
I really don't have an opinion on that.
You don't know.
Hold on. Look, she starts shaking her shoulders, and then he starts shaking shoulders. That's really funny.
I bet you do.
No,
Look at him going,
I'm here about
just tilting.
no tax on tips.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's do it one more time.
I'm here about no tax on tips.
Yeah. No tax on tips. Not talk about pizza. We're here to talk about something else. The Pizzagate people are going nuts on that one, right? Just trying to weasel my way out of this story thing. Anyway, so that's all really encouraging. Everything in there is pretty good news. I'm pretty psyched about it. Things are going to get more expensive. No big deal. At least we're going to get promise number 2, right? Mass deportations and no amnesty for people that came here illegally, broke our laws. And we're not going to do that thing, the Dignat Act. We're not going to let the people who came into the United States unlawfully stay here simply because they've already been here, right? We wouldn't like give some special credit to like the fat cat donor class, fill up my mouth with farts people. We're not gonna make sure that their businesses continue to employ illegal aliens. Are we? We're not gonna. Stephen Miller wouldn't. Stephen Miller is a diehard deport them all guy, right? Right? Does he answer the question?
It's impossible to talk about immigration reform without sealing the border. Nobody I know, Democrat or Republican, who does not believe the border is sealed. Leads some to say, like farmers and meat packers, what about some of the illegals here that are helping my company? Which led Mike Lowell, a Republican in a battleground district, to roll out the Dignity Act. Here's a little of it.
Before we do a little of it, remember, Fox News is the soft sell to the Republican base. It's the scripted, choreographed, here's what we think the retards are going to take. You know, the same people that believe that Donald Trump was actually dressed up as a doctor and it's not offensive to dress up like Jesus Christ, the Son of God. That's not offensive. Not if you believe that he's doing all the good things. He was actually sent here by God. Paula White told me the evangelical talks with gibberish mouth. Okay? Mark Levin told me that we can nuke them because of the Potsdam Declaration. Okay, it's historical. Back in history. Like, we're going to go back to history and we're going to say, well, in World War II, we nuked people, so we probably might have to nuke the Iranians too, because they're dug in. They've soft-sold the idea of he was a doctor. They've soft-sold the idea that it's going to be still really expensive in November, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't vote for these people, even though they said otherwise. And now they're going to soft-sell you on amnesty. He doesn't want to answer the question directly. So let's finish out with Stephen Miller telling us how it's going to all get better.
It says if you've been here more than 5 years, so not the people that came under Joe Biden's disastrous administration, but the people who have been in this country more than 5 years, 10, 15, 20 years, whose children and grandchildren may in fact be American citizens, they would qualify if they have not committed a crime. They pay back taxes. They pay a fine.
What about the fact that they've been working under a stolen identity if they're working in this country at all, which would be the people that we would actually be okay with keeping? They'd have to be living here and working illegally. What about the people who hired them that would be in felony violation of Title VIII for employing them? What about those people? Okay, Stephen Mills is going to address it in 1 second. This is still the New York congressman giving out the specifics of the bill. This is the argument for amnesty, apparently.
They have a job and they do not collect government benefits. They would qualify for a legal status.
Remember, if you have a job and you come to this country illegally, then you are in violation of our laws. Additionally, in addition to violating the staying here without a visa, because you can't just do that. I used to live in London when I was in school. I had a little stamp. It was on my passport. It said no recourse to public funds or work. I couldn't work for anything. If I got a job, I was in violation of the law there.
Not citizenship.
So a little about what he mentioned, but here's some of the facts with the Dignity Act. Where do you stand with it, Stephen?
Stephen Miller.
Well, you know that this administration opposes amnesty. President Trump has always been clear in his opposition to amnesty. And I, of course, you know my own views, but I want to reframe this whole conversation.
Remember, when you say the word "but" in politics, we are basically going to disregard everything you said before the "but." So this is the real message, and here it comes.
Brian, if I could, to something that President Trump has been very focused on for a long time, and that's about having the kind of immigration to this country that makes us stronger, not weaker.
What? We're going to make the country stronger, not weaker. We need good immigration, not bad immigration. Could that bad immigration be legal? And could that good immigration be illegal as well? Well,
I think this conversation gets siloed too often when we.
You guys are getting too specific about what has to happen. You know, like you're getting too specific about saying there needs to be the largest deportation operation in American history. You're getting too specific. You're not supposed to do that. Let's think broadly about good immigration that comes here illegally.
You have to look at the whole picture. You saw the recent tragic case where an illegal alien from Haiti bludgeoned a woman to death in broad daylight with a hammer, smashing her skull in, one hammer blow after another.
Guys, are you emotionally upset about that? A Haitian immigrant came here and smashed a woman's head. Yep. Now imagine a person who's not a hammer smasher, but a hard worker. Can't you see the difference?
That's what happens when you have open borders to this country from some of the most dangerous parts of the world. That's one person that Biden let in, the Democrats let in, to maim and murder our citizens, but there are thousands more. When you have open migration, as we've had, Brian, largely, it was very bad under Biden, but largely for 5 decades before President Trump, we had open migration.
Look how serious Brian Kilmeade is. He's so serious right now.
From the most dangerous places in the world. How do your schools work? How do your hospitals work? How does your economy work? How do you have a society that can win all these great civilizational struggles against our adversaries around the world if you have to feed, house, clothe, educate, support, give affirmative action to millions and millions of people from failed states around the world? So
we're going to get them all out, right?
President Trump has said, we want to have high-value migration into this country, not low-value migration. And we have to deal with the fact that we have millions of people here who are on welfare, who are not contributing, who commit a lot of crime, who consume a lot of public resources, and it's in the best interest of this country for those people to be humanely returned home. That's the big conversation.
That's the big conversation. And here's the best part about it. You can predict that someone is not going to commit additional crimes once they've broken into the country and stayed here illegally and violated our work laws and decided to work even though they're not legally allowed to work here. You'll know that they're not going to commit any other crime because the laws that they're breaking are favorable to our donors. Right? That's how we know that they're not the bad kind of criminals. They're the good kind of criminals that came here to work really hard, and so they had to criminally violate our laws in order to work. because they just wanted to work so much they were even willing to break the law to work. Or we could deport all of them, like you said.
So this old Washington conversation about amnesty is missing the whole point. The real conversation is, how do we have an immigration policy that makes America stronger and more unified? Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's what I read. Seal the border, stop the migrant invasion, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. Nothing about that said, how do we get an immigrant population that's really making us stronger? That's not in there. It turns out it's also not part of the end inflation and make America affordable again. You know how inflation happens? You give a bunch of money from the government to people that aren't supposed to be here. Some of those people are going to be the children of illegal aliens that I thought you guys wanted to end with birthright citizenship, and they shouldn't be in our schools. They shouldn't be using any of our resources because they have no right to be here in the first place, which means they shouldn't have freaking children here who become American citizens. So it sounds like we're going to do amnesty. Put the prediction down right now. That's what they're going to go after. And listen, if people like Galadriel dress up and tell you that you're Jesus, maybe you think you can get away with that stuff. But it turns out when you look at this collapsing tent of what people who want to align themselves as Republican, that's the false statement that Ben Shapiro was making. Well, the Republican Party broadly supports Donald Trump. Yeah, but they're hemorrhaging people that identify as Republican. So two things can be true at once. You can have all the support from the group of people that remain, and that remaining group get less and less. And by the way, what is the first rule of cults? The rule is when the cult starts to collapse, people who leave the cult get killed first. So if you are suddenly going like, hey, this is not what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for amnesty. I didn't sign up for extra wars. I didn't sign up for working on behalf of a foreign nation. I signed up for America first. I signed up for making America affordable again. I signed up for making America healthy again. I signed up for a whole bunch of information that was supposed to make this country better and my life outcomes be better. And I don't give a good damn about what goes on in other countries until you solve the problem here. That's literally what you said as you were campaigning. And stupid me, I actually believed you. So now I'm out. You're the first person who gets attacked. You are now the problem. Because they're not going to change the people that always hated Donald Trump. They're going to change the people who used to like Donald Trump and are mad that he's not doing the right thing. And I didn't say what he said he was going to do. He did. So fun. Okay. A couple of fun receipts. Let's see here. Let's see what we got here. Yes, I do have some fun palate cleanses. Let me look through here. I just want to do a little trip through memory lane, lest anybody forget why we're in this situation and who is in charge. And also, again, that concentrated, I'm going to go broadly speaking about the PSYOP idea, the push that podcasts are irrelevant. I'm going to show you another person telling you that, in fact, they're super relevant. In fact, they're so relevant that even the enemy knows they're relevant. So we'll do that in 1 second here. Again, if you're watching, thumbs up on Rumble, thumbs up on YouTube. Appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all the new subscribers, including the subscribers that jumped on today. Let's do one more really good one because this is Glenn Beck, who is from Legacy, moved into his own space, and is now making the claim, almost a tearful claim, that these types of medium are really important, which is the same reason why Ben Shapiro does it primarily. It's the reason why Dan Bongino left his deputy director job at the FBI. Daniel left the FBI where he was in a seat of power to go get into a podcast. Why? Because the podcast actually probably has more effectiveness and actually has some sort of influence on, at least on the base. They're hoping they can skew the people, which is why Mark Levin is going to appear on the Bongino podcast this week. Amazing. Okay, here's Glenn Beck tearfully telling you that we're losing the information war, and that's why you need to just go to the approved sources. He's this far away from calling for censorship, by the way.
What do they have that they think they can beat the United States? Because we're wiping them out. We're cleaning their clock on the field of battle. What do they have? It's not missiles. It's what they see when they look at us through social media. Iran sees a divided America, an exhausted America, 20 years of forever wars. They see an America that's ready to turn on itself the second price of gas goes up. They see social media turning every clip into a weapon, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong. I told you this 2 weeks ago. Recent research from a private intelligence firm tracking this exact conflict shows that 60% of the most viral posts on X about Iran in the first weeks of the fighting came from accounts based outside of the U.S. Foreign accounts generated 155 million views compared to 93 million from real American viewers. That's not organic outrage. Okay, that's Iran, that's Russia, that's China, flooding the zone with deep fakes, doctored images of sunken ships, scripted narratives designed to make us fight one another. The State Department just sent a cable to every embassy, push back against this coordinated propaganda from Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing. Okay, this isn't a theory. This is actually happening right now. And they don't care if you love Trump or hate Trump. You love the blockade or you question the blockade. They just need everybody at each other's throats. That's it. They need everybody screaming that the other side is a traitor, that one side is weak and the other is anti-American. Whatever it is, they don't care. They don't care. Anti-war voices calling pro-Israel voices neocon warmongers. MAGA influencers turning on each other. That's why I don't talk about that war. I'll talk about it in principles, but I'm not going to get involved calling out names and telling you who you should hate, because you shouldn't hate any of them, because this is all manufactured. Podcast, viral clips on both extremes, pushing the exact same emotional buttons so we accuse each other instead of the regime in Tehran that is funding the terror, funding the dreams of chaos.
Guys, don't listen to the propaganda voices that are telling things that are different than my message. Listen to my message. And my message is that the people in Tehran are your real enemy. You've been at war with Oceania since the beginning. You've always been at war because George Orwell said it. Because I took that as an instruction manual. I'm not going to talk about the podcast people. I'm just telling you that they're all wrong. In theory, because in theory, we have to support the war that's made up. Here's the funny thing about it. The reason that I know that your message is crap is because you've already cried about the idea that the neocon warmongers are taking us to war, because they are. Because the people who are the neocon warmongers are the ones that are backing the position of more war. And it turns out, I'm just going to remind you real quickly, we got told right up front why we are at war by people who are in a position to know about why we're at war. And then they went on this massive cover. This is the same thing. Like, they must think that you're retarded. They must. They're doing the Donald Trump talking point. If I just say it enough times, then maybe they'll believe it. If I never admit to being wrong, then maybe they'll believe that I've never been wrong. Here's Speaker Mike Johnson telling you why we're at war, since I keep these clips. And we should probably remember, the reason we're at war is because there was about to be a shooting war between Iran and Israel, allegedly, per the Israelis.
To me, the most critical point is that this was a defensive measure, a defensive operation. And why is that? I took some notes, and this is not classified, so I'll tell you what I think is important. Israel was determined to act in their own defense here, with or without American support. Why?
That would have been fine.
Because Israel faced what they deemed to be an existential threat. Iran was building missiles at a radical and a rapid clip to the point where our allies in the region could not keep up. As you know, Iran has long vowed to take out Israel, wipe it off the map, and they have long seen that as a critical threat to their very existence. Because Israel was determined to act, with or without the U.S., our commander-in-chief and the administration and the officials I just named had a very difficult decision to make. They had to...
Let me just translate what I heard. Israel said this, and Israel was going to do this, and Iran and Israel have a problem, and they're lifelong enemies, and Israel thought that that was a threat to their existence, and Israel was saying that they couldn't keep up with the weapons manufacturing that was going on with Iran, so Israel was concerned that they were going to be struck. And then Donald Trump had a real difficult decision. He had to decide whether he was going to MAGA, or he was going to go after Iran and start a war, and raise the gas prices, and pretend to be Jesus as a doctor, and a bunch of other bullshit. That's what I heard. I just heard we had a choice, and our choice was we decided to go to war for a foreign nation. Why? Because that's what he just said. I'm not even paraphrasing it that much. Listen to the number of times he said the word Israel. It's insane. He said it like 12 times in a 2-minute clip.
The States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles.
What would be in range of short-range ballistic missiles? Would it be places like not America? Thanks.
And the threat posed by their Navy, particularly...
Is their Navy a threat to America? No? Thanks.
...to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders...
If Iran came under attack by anyone, us or Israel, then they were going to attack the United States. So why don't we just tell Israel not to attack them?
Had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true because, in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned.
Let me just say real quickly, we knew that if anybody attacked Iran, then they were going to attack us. And so we decided to attack them because Israel was going to attack them. That's what we're getting.
The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action.
We knew Israel was going to attack, so we decided to attack before Israel did so that we could be on the front end of it.
We knew that would precipitate an attack against American forces, and we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be hearing...
Cool. Anyway, I just wanted to remind you of the self-fulfilling prophecy that led to us doing this thing, which is why it's 80% more expensive for me to fill up my tank of diesel in Texas, America, where it should be pretty inexpensive. That's the entirety of it. It's actually not that hard. For those of you that have made the claims like, oh, it used to be more expensive under Biden, like, you're totally right. It totally did. We're on an awesome trend line right here. I did a couple of like AI searches just for sort of aggregate cost of fuel across the United States. It topped out over $5 a gallon under Barack Obama. It also topped out about late 2022, 2023-ish. It topped out a little bit over $4 a gallon. We are climbing rapidly towards that as we are over $4 a gallon right now. So historic high was actually just as Barack Obama was coming in at over $5. And then it dropped back down. And so, yes, there are some cyclical things here. This is the national average for those of you who are trying to figure out, like, where are you? Generally speaking, Texas is below the national average by a lot. It's like $3.80 a gallon here for 87, and it's over like $4.12 nationally. So it's cheaper here than most. But when our diesel prices are climbing over $5.50 a gallon, we got a real problem for people that are bringing food, that are driving trucks, that are doing the work in this country. You know, the opposite of what the freaking DoorDash lady's doing. And by the way, the opposite of what anybody in this cabinet does, who has soft hands, that has never done yard work, who's never mowed their own lawn, who's never waited tables, who's never freaking done a weed whacker. Like, most of these people are so far removed from reality. They haven't done grocery shopping in forever. Donald Trump doesn't even know if he's ordering McDonald's or pizza because someone else is doing it. And he just assumed delivery equals pizza. He thought it was the Domino's lady, but it wasn't. It was the McDonald's lady, because he's probably never had anybody DoorDash anything except for this stunt. So anyway, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch it. It's frustrating to see them do that to us, and then and wonder like, oh, like, is it going to get better? It doesn't look like it will. Tomorrow, I want to make sure we cover this. I didn't want to bring it up without reading it first. The Justice Department has just released their weaponization working group, which has been disbanded. A report detailing the Biden administration weaponization of the FACE Act, which is like one of 10 things that should have been looked at by the weaponization working group. Remember, we just had someone resign. Jared Wise, former FBI agent, just resigned from the weaponization working group and the DOJ in general because they didn't do the thing that he wanted them to do, which they were supposed to go out there and solve some problems. They still haven't settled a lawsuit with me and my friends over at the FBI when we were attacked for COVID violations. So this administration has been doing an awful soft job of keeping their promises, and people are noticing. And that's why you're seeing, I think, the tent shrink. I think people are just like, yeah, it's not exactly what I wanted. Turns out that's not what I voted for. So should we do something fun? I think we should. This is a clip. This is the second time I've heard this commercial. It is the weirdest damn thing that I've ever seen as far as that goes. This is a woman riding in her car. We talked about terrestrial radio at the beginning. I told you that I would bring something back. And I also told you about podcasts and the sort of info war that's going on across the online space. And I've got a 2 palate cleansers, one for each of you, one for each of those topics. This one is about terrestrial radio. It's also about people like Paula White, the sort of Zionistic evangelicals that have insane beliefs and get money from Christian people because for reasons I can't understand. Maybe you guys have never thought to sponsor a precious Jew. Not my words. But if you ever heard this commercial, please put a comment below on what you were listening to when it came on. I'm fascinated to know who's advertising that you should support a precious Jew's trip to Israel.
Today, we are witnessing the rise of anti-Semitism around the world like never before. For many poor elderly Jews, their dream of making Aliyah one day and coming home to Israel is extremely difficult, if not impossible. But you can change all of that today for one precious Jew. Even in a time of war, the safety and shalom of moving to Israel under God's protection and his covenant promise to bring his chosen people home is why we're asking you today to partner with us. The cost to rescue one Jew and purchase a seat on an upcoming Fellowship Aliyah Freedom Flight is $710. With a donation to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews of $35, you'll help one poor elderly Jew out of a life of hopelessness and anti-Semitism to start a brand new life in Israel.
Guys, you can fund somebody to leave a life of hopelessness and anti-Semitism and send them to Israel. Where are these playing? Somebody tell me where you've heard this thing if you've ever heard it.
Here's how you can reach.
What?
800-342-0044. 800-342-0044.
Her explosive laugh on there is freaking hilarious. It's absolutely like I would think that was a joke. I would think that was some sort of parody or some sort of a skit. You could save one precious Jew. Like, what? What on earth are we talking about? All right. That's part one, terrestrial radio. That's pretty funny. Imagine taking that and being like, yeah, I got to call up and save a precious Jew so I can give them Aliyah and Shabbat Shalom or whatever. Imagine the peace and shalom that they will have. Like, it's like this. It's like Sally Struthers, like saving the children with the fly walking on their eye, or like the Sarah McLachlan song of like the pets that have like a gimpy leg at the pound. Save one precious Jew. It's such a weird. It's just so weird. I can't think of any other place where you would hear something like that and you'd be like, I'm going to dial the phone. I got to save this person. This old lady who's suffering from anti-Semitism and hate in America. Super weird. The other one, this is straight up propaganda, by the way. This is Iran engaging in the meme war. Donald Trump portrayed himself as Jesus Christ in a meme. Iran made him like the guy from Flock of Seagulls. And this is from the Iranian embassy, tweeted out, and it's about the blockade in the style of a German new wave song. It's freaking very weird. And they're making fun of him for having an ineffective, ridiculous, weird blockade. So we're going to just do that because we like music here.
I will never give you up. The Strait of Hormuz must be shut. Blockade, blockade. In my head, just blockade. Please let the ships go through. Come on, at least a few. If you block me, then I block you. Blockade, blockade. I thought this was easy peasy. Blockade. Now Mecca and Melania leave me. Blockade. Surrender is beneath me. Blockade, blockade. I think soon I get impeachy.
Snickers for Linkshander.
That might actually be Donald Trump singing that. Blockade, blockade. Yep. Anyway, so there you go. The Iranians have weighed in. That's their take on how serious they are about this war. It's so freaking strange. I'll put that song over on Locals for you guys to listen to if you want to download it. Why not? And that may have been Johnny Five from Short Circuit. So all great retro stuff. Thanks, Iran. It's the only thing Iran's ever done personally to me, which is have Donald Trump say blockade. God bless all of you. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. You guys are the reason why I get to be here. It's a really weird job. And I'll just try to do it with as much humility and also humor as I can muster. Put your comments about electric lawnmowers. Put your comments about 80s new wave in a German accent from Donald Trump. Put your comments about your DoorDash experience if you've ever done one, or if you've never done DoorDash because you're a grown-up and you know how to drive and get your own food. That'd be great. Thanks. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good rest of your Tuesday.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.